Well, hello friends, and welcome to another Ask Zach. I hope you are doing well. Today we're going to talk about guitar heroes and gear and how that kind of influences us and how to use that in a good way and how that can get unhealthy and how to try to kind of be careful of that. Also, I'm going to dissect a few of the licks from the little intro piece that I played that I think are fun. And a little pause for the cause. If you're enjoying the show, think about subscribing. And if you've been watching for a while, go to askzach.com and please support the show. We've got nice mugs and t-shirts and such. Also, please go to askzach.com to check out the featured article, which is my 2005 interview with Tom Bukovac. So it was my first, big interview I ever did, and it was Tom's first major interview in a guitar magazine. So that's a lot of fun. Please go check that out. And if you want to stay up with that content, get on my mailing list at askzach.com. All right, enough of that. Let's talk about the little intro piece that I was playing. Kind of has a touch of that working man blues thing. So it's in E. And kind of basing it off this, kind of ninth chord shape, except you're just playing the, A, D, and G strings, and you're kind of climbing up minor third, major third, fourth to fifth. So it sounds like this. Take it up to A, which I guess you could just slide it up here, but that's and then of course go back to the E. Then you have this B suspension to a B7. And then you have a G major 7 to an A. And then it goes back to the other thing. That G major 7 to A I picked up from Danny Gatton. He did this amazing video called Rhythm Guitar for Hot Licks. It was one of the last things he did before he passed away. And of course I'm a huge Danny Gatton fan, and but of his instructional videos, the 3 that he did, to me that one's the most useful for anybody. I think anyone can watch that and get a lot from it. Some of the other ones are a bit more advanced, and I like the tips and tricks one also. I don't really like the other Hot Licks one that he did, Telemaster. It's just the recording quality is really bad on it. And also the stuff he's playing is harder to pick up. But the rhythm guitar one, to me, is just pure gold. And I'll put a link to the description, in the description to it. You can get it on Amazon Prime. I think it's like 10 to 15 bucks, something like that, but it's very worth it. So anyway, yes, he did this kind of thing in the video. He did and that's going between an E7 and a D major 7. And so I really liked that. And so I kind of put this in here as a transition in between the B. Then as far as when I went kind of into, playing some, a little bit of soloing, the bends over the 4 chord over the A, I really liked it. I'm not sure if I got this from Roy Buchanan or Jim Campolongo or who, but it's just going. And the great thing about the lick is you don't have to do the bends perfectly because you're sliding up. So it's just you need to kind of get it going, and then you slide up to the actual notes that are in the A chord. Give it a little shake. Sounds good. Another thing, and I know I stole this from Reggie Young. He played it on, used it on a couple different things, but the first time I heard it was on Haggard's Think I'll Just Stay Here and Drink. And I think everyone's familiar with this kind of, well, here like in E, you're familiar with this kind of thing. That kind of, you know, blues lick. And this is kind of a variation of that, because instead of going, and so you're taking your pinky and you're playing this you know, C sharp note, and then you're pulling off and hitting this B note, and that's a really fun one. All right, so I think that's yeah, that's good on some of the things I played in that intro piece. So today I wanted to talk about guitar heroes and gear purchases and such, and just how that can be good and also how it can be negative, and trying to kind of get that in a proper perspective. So having guitar heroes, of course, is great. Having influences is great. Even trying the gear that they use is fine. You know, so you find out, you know, what kind of strings or picks or amps, pedals, guitar, whatever that your hero uses. There's nothing wrong with that, and nothing, you know, wrong with trying it out. I think when it becomes unhealthy, in my opinion, is when you start hammering away at being just like a guitar player and expecting everything that they have to work for you. Now you might find that, you know, certain aspects of your hero's gear does work well for you, and you know, and you can continue to play with that. But to get all the stuff that your hero uses and just keep hammering away is just kind of a dead end road. And gear is a trap, you know, to begin with. I mean, we all are obsessed with gear to a degree, but you really need to be playing, and gear needs to be in the aspect, in the context of playing. So I'll give an example for myself. You know, in the early 90s, the first good Telecaster I ever had was a James Burton signature model. And of course I was completely obsessed with James Burton. I was still living down in South Texas, and I was so proud of the fact that I had gotten my gear money, you know, gig money together, and I was able to pay for a guitar that was about, I don't remember, it was like $1,500 or $1,600. And so I got the signature model James Burton Tele, and it was black with gold paisleys and had 3 lace sensor pickups. And of course it was kind of like a non-tremolo Strat, but with a Tele body and neck on it. It was a good guitar, but it wasn't really a pure Telecaster. And, you know, it's a variation. It's a cool guitar, but I got one, and then I found out what strings he used, which are really light. He uses a 10 for a B string, and he uses a 12 for a G string. And I started trying to do that. I started trying to use a metal, you know, finger pick like he does, and it didn't work. It didn't work well for me. The strings were just too light for me, and it just didn't work. And so, you know, luckily I kind of moved on, and then of course started getting obsessed with Albert Lee and started using, you know, what strings and pick that he used. I did, you know, read an article on Reggie Young and started playing a you know, Fender medium pick, and I started using the rounded end, and that ended up being a good fit, you know, for a long time. I still use that some, though I have switched over to using a blue chip pick, and been enjoying that a lot. Though this is the thinnest pick they make. It's a 35, which is like a Fender heavy, and I've really liked that. But another example besides James Burton's string gauge that you know, didn't work for me is, you know, I love Eric Johnson, and so of course I got one of his guitar picks, and no, it didn't make me play like Eric Johnson. In fact, I really hated this pick. I mean, it works well for him, but it didn't work well for me at all. To me, it was so bright. And funnily enough, the other day I was having a a discussion on the interweb on picks, and Guthrie Trapp chimed in, and he said that this is his least favorite pick. He said he hates them. So we love Eric Johnson. So another thing, when working for Brad Paisley, sometimes I would let local guitar players play through Brad's rig. And so there they were playing a 68 Paisley into the big Dr. Z, rig. And, even when they played Brad's licks, they didn't sound like him. There's so much to do with your heart and your hands and everything. And, but there's nothing wrong with trying those things. You try those things and you find out, well, I do like Dr. Z amps or Telecasters or that gauge of string or that type of pick. So try what your heroes use, but don't start just, hammering yourself against the wall. Like, if only I use the right strings and pick and get the right coily chord, I'm going to sound like, Jimi Hendrix or whoever else. So, try to keep a healthy kind of view on gear. Think about playing first, and then think about gear a little less, and feel free to try things. And if they don't work, sell it, move it on. But don't just keep hammering on, well, so-and-so used a light gauge pick. It's like saying you want to be like Glenn Campbell and use a light pick, with tens and well, guess what? That might not work for you. So anyway, I think that just kind of resonated with me recently, thinking about, because I've had a bunch of times where I got obsessive about my guitar heroes and just played their, bought their gear and whatever else, and it just didn't work out. So tried to kind of, do my own thing. I've had a lot of fun with strings lately. Been going on a string journey kind of with y'all. Right now I'm using an interesting gauge where I'm going 10, 13, 15, 24, 32, 42. And these are just, these are standard Ernie Ball strings that I had around. And, I've enjoyed the pure nickel strings from Pyramid, but I have a bunch of strings here at the house, and so I'm just trying different combinations, and I really like this. So this is basically a mix of a 9 set, the low end, and to me that's really balanced. So to have that 42, 32, 24, and then have a little heavier E string, because to me that's what I do battle with, is getting a good sound on the high E string and the B string. And then the G string, I can use a fairly light string, a 15, which is really easy to bend. And so I've been having a lot of fun with that. And I can't think of anyone else per se that uses that string gauge. I mean, if there is, I don't know about it. I'm just kind of trying my own thing. And then the blue chip pick thing, of course, kind of tried it because of Red Volkart and because Keith Williams sent me one. But, this pick isn't like, used by somebody famous or anything. And in fact, it's one of their thinnest picks. So, there I have some elements that, kind of just trying to do my own thing and find out what works for me instead of just being glued in on, well, that's not what, Reggie Young or James Burton or whoever used. So that's enough for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Of course, I was using my Danocaster with Ron Ellis pickups, using my little pedal board. I just had the compressor and the echo part going. Usual Deluxe Reverb. Hope y'all have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.